Trapped by the belief that I'm not good enough, bound by the limitations and the lies that consumed my world, this was me. It wasn't until I took the biggest leap in my life to know and trust the power within. And it was at that moment I made a choice. My past will not define me anymore. Hello, I am Teri, and I know I am not alone in this. Over the years, I have found that the number one mistake that we make is that we get in the way of our own success story. Yes, I said it. On this show, together we'll tackle limiting beliefs, self-sabotage, getting stuck, fear, doubt, overwhelm, and the imposter syndrome. Join us on this journey designed to transport you beyond your limitations to a world where anything is possible. This is Talking with Teri. Hello, and welcome back to Talking with Teri, where we have powerful conversations to transform your life and your business. And I'm excited to hear from our guest today, Maura Thomas. She is an expert in productivity and work-life balance. Now, if there is ever such a thing, I can't wait to hear about how you create this balance. She's also a pioneer of the concept of, quote, attention management, which she calls the new path to productivity. She's been featured on Forbes, the Harvard Business Review, and many other places. So, oh my goodness, Maura, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Teri. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes. Okay. So let's dive in. For folks that don't know you yet, tell us a little bit about you and how you got started to get where you're at today.
Yeah, I almost my very first job out of college was for a company that sold paper-based planners, the big leather ones with the zipper that, gave you backaches that people
those.
Yeah.
I had one of those. Yeah. You know what? But I have to tell you a funny story about mine, because there was a little tiny magnetic strip in it for you when you if someone steals something, it would take off the little alarm, right?
Uh-huh.
And I didn't realize that one of them had it inside of it. And every time I take my planner everywhere, I'd go out and every time the alarm would go off. And it just became comical. And I'm like, it's something in my planner, but I've taken my planner apart a million times and I cannot find it. 2 years later, I finally found it, but it was crazy. Anyways, I love it. Okay. So you started out selling those.
Yeah, working for a company that sold those and offering training to go with those.
Okay.
And so my very first sort of introduction to the business world was in the productivity field. And I stayed there for almost 10 years. I worked my way up. I left as the director of marketing. And as the director of marketing, it was my job to learn about all of our competitors. So I had to read all the books and I had to go to all the trainings and I had to see all the speakers. And so I got a real sort of PhD level education in time management and productivity.
Love it.
And and so I worked there for almost 10 years and then I left and started my business doing similar things, not paper-based planners, but helping people with their productivity. And about 12 years ago, I started really struggling with this idea that everybody would frame their productivity in terms of time management, in terms of the ability to manage their time. And I started to get kind of frustrated with that because, number one, we all know we can't really manage time, right? It marches on no matter what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And really, we all have those days where we're like, oh my gosh, that was such a good day. I got so much done. For many people, that's a distant memory, but most people have experienced that, right? Oh, it's such a good day. I got so much done. And also we've all experienced a lot more often, especially these days, like, oh my gosh, I was busy all day and I got nothing done. And so in both of those instances, same amount of time. Right? Yeah. Same 24 hours. It is not that we had more time one day and less time another day. The problem that we have in the 21st century is that we have too many distractions.
Yes.
And that's what's preventing us from living a life of design and a life of choice and a life of intention. And so I really sort of reframed all of my sort of lessons and my trainings and my speeches and like everything that I was teaching people to sort of raise awareness of, look, attention management is the skill that you need, not time management. And it's only going to get more important in the future. And that really seems to be resonating with a lot of people.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think, just kind of talking about some of the biggest barriers and challenges that folks face. And even in the last like couple years where we've turned, I don't know what the percentage is now, but at the beginning, it was like 100% workforce or 90% workforce was transitioned, home to this, with this pandemic, so we have that on top of, a lot of people would go to work to have less distractions from the home. And now we have kids at school or at home. We have other spouses working from home, and we have so much more distractions, I think, now than we did prior to this,
Sure.
So let's unpack this a little bit, because I love this idea, because I agree with you. I am very intentional with my time, and I always am doing, like, I always do the beat the clock. And so I set times to do one task, right? And I'm very productive. And I think that a lot of times we can, like you said, get distracted by all the like shiny, sparkly things, and we just get so overwhelmed. And so I think that's what I've seen. The biggest thing is like people just get overwhelmed. So it's like, oh my gosh, I gotta do this. I gotta do this. I'm like, wait, I did this. And then and then we just get, our brain just goes, like in panic. We go into the fight, flight, or freeze. And then we just like stay frozen. So with that, what are some things that you can suggest, or well, let me ask you this. Let's back up. What do you think is the biggest challenges that people face when they go into this place of overwhelm?
Yeah, there are several. I think different people, the biggest one is different for different people, but I think there are two primary ones. One is that we behave as if we are at the mercy of our devices. Mm-hmm. And we use all of these excuses, might be a little bit, a little bit strong of a term, but we use all of these, and we have all these ideas in our head that, but I have to read my email all the time, and I have to check my Slack all the time, and I have to answer text messages all the time. And I just have to, because everybody expects it of me. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the world is always going to put demands on us, right? The world expects us to be tall and thin and have no pores and no wrinkles and no veins too, right? That's what the world expects of us. And that's just not reality. And, as long as we just try to conform to the world's expectations, we're not going to be able to live a life of choice. And what I always tell people is, because some people will say, but I don't have a choice because it's my boss, or it's my customers, it's my clients. And I don't know your life. So, but what I would say is just test, right? Test that assumption. What happens if you don't answer every email immediately as it arrives, but you do answer your messages, a couple times a day, or even the next business day? What would happen if you talk to people and said, look, I maybe put a line in your email signature that says, I only check my messages periodically. So if this is really urgent, please call me, for example. Yeah. And people will see that and go, oh, well, it's not urgent. As long as she gets back to me, later today, that should be fine. Right. So we have these beliefs that we don't examine. Right.
Yeah.
So look at those and test those. That's the first challenge, the biggest challenge for a lot of people.
I think that's really great, is testing those beliefs, because I think it always comes back to us and how are we making, what's the meaning that we're giving behind this? And oftentimes it's a story that we've made up, or it was a story that was given to us, I have still to this day. And I was taught that if you were 5 minutes early, you're considered late. Right. So I'm always on time for things. And if I'm not on time, it creates anxiety, and that's one of those things it's a safe story, because I do like to be on time because it's respectful. Right. But think about an exam. And that's the first story that came up to me. That's like, oh, but that's a story. That's a story that I bought. It has served me. Right. But think about what are those belief systems that are playing out? Because I think you're absolutely right. Because a lot of us, oh my gosh, I'm like, I don't know, I'm dictated, my life is dictated by these, cellular devices or these computer devices that consume us. So what are
Right.
those beliefs that are running the show? And can we take a look at them and re-examine those, and give them less power? Give
Yeah.
them absolutely less power. I remember listening to the 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, and he has some great strategies. And it's really about teaching people how you're going to respond, right? And to your point, exactly, is that our time can be dictated by all these expectations around us, or we can dictate our own time and radiate that way. That's where we keep our power and choice in doing so. I love it. Okay, so what's the second one?
The second thing is that most people don't have a good way to manage their responsibilities. And so I say responsibilities, and by responsibilities, I mean tasks, and I often call them actions. So my one of my most recent books is called From To Do to Done, and it's the what I call the action management portion of the workflow methodology that I teach people. The whole workflow methodology is called the Empowered Productivity System. And there's a book for each of the components. And one of the components is called action management. And so if your actions are like your to-do list, or even more broadly, your responsibilities, all of those things that you need to do personally and professionally to keep your life running smoothly, most people do not do that well. Most people keep that stuff in some combination of their brain, their legal pad, a notebook that they bring to meetings with them, sticky notes all over their desk, a dry erase board in their office, appointments with themselves on their calendar that they may or may not keep, and flags in their email. And that's where all of their
how
stuff
many
lives.
listeners right now can relate to what she's talking about? And I will throw myself under the bus right now. I'm the posty lady. I'm the post-it note chick. Okay, I'm just saying.
Yeah. And so when you manage your responsibilities, personal and professional, like that, it's like trying to do a puzzle when all of the pieces are scattered all over the house.
Yeah.
And so if you think about that, right, let's say your life and your responsibilities are the puzzle, and each individual thing you have to do to keep your life running smoothly is a piece of the puzzle. Yeah. Now, imagine that you're trying to do the puzzle when you've got a whole bunch of pieces on the sofa and a whole bunch of pieces on the bed and a whole bunch of pieces on the kitchen counter, and you're on the dining room table going, how am I supposed to do this? Right? So you would be running around the house. It would take you way more time. It would be way more frustrated. You couldn't prioritize. You couldn't organize in any way.
And as soon as you go to the kitchen, you're like, oh my gosh, I got to do a load of laundry or dishes.
You get distracted. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so,
it's a great metaphor, by the way. Great. Cause I think we can all visualize doing that and seeing that and being like, yes, that is me.
Yeah. And so getting a better way to manage all of those responsibilities is really important. And the whole book From To Do to Done is full of that. But the first step is, if you're going to do the puzzle on the dining room table, and if we're extending the analogy, right, what's your dining room table? Where is all of your stuff, all of your responsibilities going to live? And my recommendation for that is that they live in a good digital task manager. The one I recommend is Todoist, but there are many, right? There's Microsoft To Do and Toodle-Do, and I don't even know if that one's still around anymore. Or there's also sort of more project management based tools that can be the same, like Smartsheet or Asana or Basecamp, or just a place that is designed to store those things, that has all of the features you need, right? The features to add tags to it so you can see what project it belongs to, and to add priority to it, and due dates and reminders, and so that you can group them differently and look at them differently, and get what you need when you need it. Now, that's only the first step, and there are many, many more that I think matter, because it's not the tool alone. It's how you use the tool, right? But the first step is, if you're trying to manage your life with all your puzzle pieces scattered all over the house, you're making things much harder for yourself.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. Okay. So that's a great tip right there is where are you hosting all of your stuff? Where it's one central location to keep that. And then having that is kind of your base camp, if you will. Okay. So that's the one major piece. What's your second piece after they have that buttoned up and that they are holding that? What's the next kind of strategy for them?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important to. So, another mistake that people make with their task list is that they write things down in a way that isn't really actionable. So, we put things on our list like plan the party. And if I said, okay, you plan, people are like, okay, hang on. When is the party? Wait, do we have the cater? Where's the party going to be? Hang on. Right. That word by itself, plan, is not actionable. And so we need to put things on our list in a way that makes them actionable. So maybe you have a list of your projects and one of your projects is plan the party. But then you have to break that down and say, what do I need? What's the next thing I need to do to plan the party? And so then on your list, it's pick the date or call the caterer or book the hall or something that is very specifically actionable, because otherwise we create what I call friction, right? We make it really hard for us to take action on those things that we need to do because we write down some vague thing and we go, oh, I'll know what I meant by that. And even if you know kind of in theory, like, yes, I understand what plan the party means, but where am I on that? And which part of the party do I need to plan? And what do I need to do right now to move the party planning forward? So making sure that all of your stuff, number one, is broken down into actionable steps. And number two, starts with an actionable action verb. So for example, plan is an action verb, but it's not actionable. Call is an actionable action verb, right? Research is an action verb, but instead of saying research competitors, it would be better to say Google ad agencies in Texas, right?
Yeah.
Because research makes you go, research creates friction. You look at that and you go, okay, what do I, where,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
But everybody knows how to do a Google search. So, or a DuckDuckGo search or a Safari search or whatever your web
search, yes.
Your search engine of choice is, everybody knows how to do that. And so so that's really important, is removing the friction and making it as easy for yourself to do the things that you need to do.
That's just like some mind hacks, right? It's really about being conscious and intentional with the words that we're using, because as you said that, and some of these words, what I have found are trigger words for people. And when you get triggered, you're like, and then it creates resistance. And then it's like, oh, and then it's like, I'm just going to avoid this. And then with that, I have found that a lot of people, when they avoid it, then they feel like, and the whole day is just like, they feel not productive. They feel guilty. They feel shame. They feel whatever that emotion is that's coming up because they didn't get it done. And then it goes back onto their to-do list for the next day. And they're like, and they do the exact same the next day. And then they just kind of torture themselves throughout the day because they're like, I didn't get that done, And so we can really, nip this, I think, by just doing some of the strategies that you're mentioning here. And I think utilizing terms that are actionable and purposeful, right?
That's right.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So just a couple things here before we wrap up, like, anything else that you would like to share with the listeners that they can, really take control back. And I think this is a perfect, we're at the beginning of the year here. And so a lot of people are doing their, kind of re-looking at things, looking at what was working last year and not working. And, what am I going to take in with this new year? And anything else that you would like to add or to the listeners that could support them on this?
Yeah, I would just sort of like to underscore, if you stop using the phrase time management, you stop thinking about it in your head, time management, you stop saying it to other people, and instead you replace it with the phrase attention management. It's funny how, like, you kind of implied words have power.
Yeah.
And if you can't manage time. And so that is one of those words that really isn't actionable.
Yeah.
But if you think about, am I managing my attention? Am I allowing my attention to be stolen? Am I living a life of reaction and distraction instead of a life of intention and choice? Once you just start using that phrase, I think you start to become aware. Wow, I should have shut off my phone just now. I should have closed out my email. I should have closed my office door and not let that person interrupt me, right? I should take back control of my own attention. And the more you recognize how often you are allowing your attention to be stolen, that's the first step in changing any habit. It's awareness. You can't change behaviors that you don't even know that you have. So just that phrase, substituting that phrase, attention management, I think has real power and has the ability to change things in your life.
I agree with you. I mean, words have a power. And, I think even time management, when we think about it, it has a negative connotation to it, even overall, just kind of when we think about time management. So I love the way that you're saying attention management, because it gives us power. It gives us power back to how are we utilizing the time, because we're all given 24 hours in a day. And how do we use that? How do we, intentionally show up with that time,
For
So
sure.
I love it. It's beautiful. What a perfect way to kind of put a bow on the top of this conversation today. So where can people connect with you, find out more about you, or check out some of your books?
Yeah, for sure. So maurathomas.com, Maura Thomas.com is kind of where everything lives. There is a page in particular, maurathomas.com/free-resources. And on that page, there's like an email management mini course, and there's a 7-day restoration handbook, and there's a control your tech guide, and there's a 10-step recovery plan. And there's just all kinds of free resources that you can take advantage of right now to start making steps to help you improve your productivity. And my definition of productivity is achieving the results that are most important to you personally and professionally.
I love that. Beautiful. All right, go check out information, because I think we all can use a little, tweaking, if not a total overhaul in this subject matter. Okay, so go check out her information. And Maura, this has been absolutely delightful. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me, Teri.
I am so grateful that you joined me for this episode. If you've enjoyed this, then there's just one thing that I would like you to do. Click to subscribe and leave me a rating and review. As my way to thank you, let's connect for a free consultation. Just reach out to me at talkingwithteri, that's TERI.com, to book your time.